How's it going, wrestling fans? Thanks for tuning in to the Wrestle Report, episode 38 with Phil and Don. I am Phil.
I'm Don.
Welcome to the first episode of 2022, and we have to come out swinging. We have 3 different events to review, and it's just a great way to start the year off. Let's start with the first thing here. What I used to call some of these shows is pay-per-view, and apparently that's not a thing anymore. I think we now have to call at least one of these shows a premier live event. Do I have that right?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
So PLE, that's going to take forever to get used to. If I even do it, I might just call it pay-per-view forever. So I still call them San Diego Chargers. So I'm not one to change very quickly. But that's one thing. But thank you guys for joining us here. Like I said, first episode of 2022. We have WWE's Day 1 premiere live event. We have NXT's New Year's Evil and the debut of AEW on TBS. And if you watch the show for any length of time, you know I'm going to sneak in some NWA news, which they actually have some pretty exciting announcements. I'm going to throw that in at the end of the show. But we will start here at the beginning on day 1. I guess we'll start from there, as the Usos like to say, down since day 1. January 1st, 2022, we had this event, and it started before it even kicked off. We had some not so welcome news of Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, not being able to make the event due to, I don't know, tested positive, was in the vicinity of somebody, whatever the case. He could not make the show due to COVID-related reasons. As the time of this recording on the 6th, he is out of protocol and will be back on show. So health-wise, he's good. So now that we know that, moving forward, we don't have to speculate. He's okay. Just had to miss this show, which was a shame because there was a big, obviously the big hoopla for this was we're getting Roman and Brock and Paul Heyman's jump to the other side and all that. So, it started out with a damper that we didn't get this match.
Yeah, I was a little bummed out about that because I really wanted to see that match just because I wanted to see what was going to happen with Paul Heyman, because I feel like the story's still not sold yet.
Yeah, it's not super clear where they're going.
Yeah, I'm Paul Heyman with Brock Lesnar all the way, because you could also see a swerve coming. Like all of a sudden, Paul Heyman screws Brock out of it and quits from being an advocate and staying with Roman, which would be a good story. I think that would be great.
Yeah. That would imply that he just took the Superman punch for the sake of swerving Brock, though. I don't know if Heyman's quite that tough, but you never know. Like I said, they could go a million different ways, and even still they can. So,
yeah.
I will say where we ended up getting because of that is Brock Lesnar was inserted into the Fatal 4-Way match for the WWE Championship, becoming a Fatal 5-Way. And they couldn't help themselves, and they just have to give the belt to Brock. And I said on the last show that Lumberjack Brock has been my favorite Brock Lesnar, as someone who doesn't like Brock Lesnar. That does not mean I wanted to see him win the title again. But, like I said, they just couldn't help themselves.
But see, I'm okay with it this time.
Okay.
Because it looks like you're seeing Brock Lesnar at every show now. He was on Monday Night Raw, and he's going to be on Friday Night SmackDown tomorrow. Yep. So as long as he's consistently being there, then I'll be a-okay with it. I was always upset with the fact that he would come, he'll win the championship, and then he'll disappear to the next pay-per-view and then show up, or a big pay-per-view, basically holding the title hostage. So I'm okay with it at that point. For
so
that
since he's returned, was it SummerSlam, right?
Yeah.
Since he's returned, you're right. He has he's been there consistently, which is a whole new thing of Brock since the early 2000s. We haven't seen that since then. I think the first thing I thought of was I kind of felt bad for Big E. I don't know if he was going to lose the belt here prior to this.
I've heard multiple different things that was said that was going to happen. I've heard that Seth Rollins was going to be originally going to win, and then I also heard that Big E was going to retain. Right. Making him have a big championship win.
I could see either one of those going. We definitely, because of the insertion of Brock Lesnar, we immediately kicked into a Bobby Lashley Lesnar thing, because it's the first time they were in any form of match together, which is crazy to think about because their careers probably overlap at least a decade between the two of them, being gone and coming back and everything when you add up all the years. And we got a little bit of interaction with them. And that does look like something they're going to visit down the line. But now, of course, you have the WWE champion in Brock Lesnar. You have the returning Universal champion Roman Reigns, and there's still plenty of bad blood there. Clearly, they're going to fight, champion versus champion, and the word is starting to get thrown around about unification. I don't know how you feel about that.
Which I'm okay with that. I love having one title.
Mm-hmm.
Also make it more interesting, because if you think about it, then if they have one title, they're probably gonna have it treated like the women's tag team titles, which they haven't really been doing much lately.
Right,
but,
not a great comparison, but I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah, as in like they could jump between brands if instead of having just one set champion for one show.
Yeah, there's a lot of positives to one champion. Obviously, it makes the US and IC title, in theory, should be more important. They have to go out of their way to still make it more important at that point. But, you would want to do that. Here's my question for this. You unify the titles. What belt do you keep around?
I think they'll keep around the World Heavyweight Championship.
You mean the WWE one?
The one that's on Raw.
Is that the one Lesnar has?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would normally agree with you here, but here's the reason that I think they would go for the Universal title. One, it's still fairly new, so to get rid of that would almost feel like we shouldn't have made this in the first place. And WWE, they did this sneakily with the WWE tag titles, right? The World Tag Team Champions that the Legion of Doom and Demolition and stuff, that version of the belt is not around anymore. So they don't have to refer to all these guys that are no longer in good standing with the company. Mm-hmm. If you get rid of, The Rock is not around anymore. Hogan is taboo to mention. Savage is passed on. The Ultimate Warrior has a sketchy back. A lot of these got Roddy Piper, Ric Flair's off his rocker, right? All these guys that they would want to talk about with the history of the championship, it's not as easy to just pull from the past anymore. If you continue the Universal title, which is more so represents the more modern style of WWE anyway, everybody that's ever won that is either still in the company or, for the most part, in good standing. So it would not shock me. I'm not saying I agree with this, but it would not shock me if there is a unification that it's actually the Universal title that continues on.
True. I can see that too. When you're saying it like that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially with the checkered past that you have with several of the champions in the past, like you said, if they try to erase that history, then yeah.
Yeah, it really helps with because the Universal title history is it's coming up on 5 years, maybe 2017, 2018, something like that. Yeah. So as opposed to the 1965 or whatever that the WWE title goes back to.
And I got one thing to say. I would like them to do the same thing for the rest of the titles, or not the rest of them, but mainly the tag team titles and the women's championship as well. Because it gives you more different type of matches, because you only have so much star or talent now.
Yeah,
you guys got rid of so many people.
That's true. Yeah,
and
if there's ever a time, it's now for sure.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Especially with the tag team titles. There's not that many tag teams out there.
No,
there really
isn't. And it's really simple to do. You get you have the red belts and the blue belts. You unify them. You bring back if you don't want to change the design, you bring back the ones the New Day had forever with the gold, plates and the black strap. It's really simple if they wanted to do it that way. Mm-hmm. And then obviously I think you can still keep the two mid-card titles though. I don't see any reason to
You still keep the IC title and the Continental title. I said that IC and the US, yeah. But I would also have the champions being able to go to either brand as well.
Yeah.
So it's just to fresh things up. Why not? And then you have set people that at set shows, like you have your people that doesn't have titles. They'll be at SmackDown and they'll be at Raw, and they'll be challenging from either or.
I mean, it'd be foolish for them on their end to think WWE's plan used to be expand on everything, right? They've retracted so much that you have to have that reflect your show a little bit. You can't have 87 titles when you have, I think, 40% of the roster that you had even 2 years ago. Yeah. So I agree. I think this might be a small step. Granted, I don't know if this was always the plan, but WWE has not been noted in recent years to have these long-term things. They more so fly by the seat of their pants. So I don't think the plan would have been a Big E Roman unification, but we are where we are now because they chose to do it this way. And if I'm not mistaken, are they going to have this match at the Rumble? Has that been announced?
Nah, it's gonna be Bobby versus Last
that's right. Which, okay, so at least we get that. Maybe they're going to find a way to drag this till Mania, because that's the only way it would make sense, I think, to do the unification at Mania. I don't know if Bobby Lashley can come in, and I don't think he's going to rock these plans. I mean, I guess he could, but Lashley, I like Lashley a lot, but Lashley Roman is not the same as Brock Roman is all they have in the tool bag right now. They have to, play that out to the full extent. So,
yeah, for sure. And
the only other thing I want to mention at day one that I found, interesting. Obviously, New Day, New Usos, those guys are impossible. It's impossible for those two teams to have a bad match. It's just we've seen it so many times. It's a great match, and we haven't seen it in a while, so it's fine. Edge and Miz was extremely entertaining, and then to bring back Beth Phoenix, which was an extra surprise because, of course, she walked away from the NXT broadcast booth not that long ago, so a lot of people didn't expect to see her on TV. And of course, we're going to get the tag match of the Battle of the Couples. I think that's announced for the Rumble.
Royal Rumble, yeah.
So that'll be fun. That's something that you could have maybe pushed to Mania too, but I don't know, especially with 2 nights on Mania. But if you want to go ahead,
I don't know how long you could drag that one out.
Yeah, it's true. It's they've already had to squeeze. They've had these guys just in the ring promo off 2 or 3 times already. So there's not as much juice left. So that'll be exciting. But other than that, solid show. Again, all I could say is they couldn't help themselves but put the belt on Brock. Where do you think? And I mentioned my first thought was the way Big E. Where's Big E go from here? What would you? Obviously, it's easy enough to put him with the New Day in some correlation, but I'm a little concerned that it's going to kill. Not that he's been treated the best as champion, but it's going to kill the momentum that he may have gained after jumping over that hurdle.
I can see him going after the IC title.
Yeah,
I would love to see Damian Priest versus Big E. Mm-hmm. I think that'll be a good match.
Yeah.
I could see him going for the IC title. If he doesn't go back to the New Day.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, so IC is what? Is that Shinsuke?
No, I'm sorry. US.
You're saying the US. I get what you mean, but IC
is Shinsuke. Yeah.
Yeah, but the only problem, he could do that. I don't think he needs to do it immediately because then it's too obvious that, all right, you're just going back down the card. When Kofi lost, he kind of just retreated back to the New Day. I think if he would have went for another singles title right away, it would have felt a little off or whatever. But overall, solid show. Definitely created more questions than answers, and that's where they lead you. And no matter how bad WWE gets, the Royal Rumble is always something that I look forward to, and that's a few 3 weeks away at this point. So definitely looking forward to that. Definitely gonna try and get the boys together. And as we get closer to that, I'm gonna explain the Royal Rumble game that we've played for the past, I want to say 10 years in my house. So we'll try and release those rules and stuff the week before or whatever. So overall decent show, which rolled us right into Tuesday. I don't know why for this New Year's Evil thing, I thought it was a takeover. So I sat down on Sunday because the Sunday night game, wasn't anything good. So I went to Peacock and I was like, oh wait, this is just a normal Tuesday thing. Which this show I was very much excited for. Because it was on Tuesday, I didn't watch it live. I did get to go back and watch pretty much all of it. One thing I learned recently is that the Shaman was not originally going to be Matt Riddle. It was actually going to be Jeff Hardy, which I think would have made this a little more interesting, but that whole thing was still great. We did have, speaking of unification matches, we had Carmelo Hayes retaining the North American title and unifying it with the Cruiserweight title. So a quick moment of silence for the Cruiserweight Championship here. And I do want to take a quick minute on that. In this purple belt era of the Cruiserweight Championship, I'm just going to throw it on the spot. I probably could have given you some heads up on this, but who was your favorite Cruiserweight champion in this era of the belt?
You talking about when it was on NXT or
just from the Cruiserweight Classic on?
Okay. My favorite was, of course, Pac.
Pac, yeah, okay. It's hard to argue with that. I definitely,
of course, I know who you're gonna say.
Tell me.
That boy Enzo Amore.
My boy Enzo. But before Enzo, and Enzo's their answer, he's 100% correct. But I was super happy that Brian Kendrick did actually win it as a grown, because he never got to win it as a younger wrestler. He actually, it was him and Paul London teaming, and he got injured, And then they gave it to Paul London, which Paul London was a great champion, but he never got to come back and win it because by the time he came back healthy, the belt was gone again.
Yeah.
So for like, he missed it as a kid and he got to come back and win it as a grown man. And they really had a lot of, TJP was great. Pac is probably the right answer. And Enzo was super entertaining. We didn't get to see that fully fleshed out because of all the shit that happened with Enzo happened right in the middle of his title reign.
Yeah.
So
I liked Rich Swann too. Rich Swann was a good one.
Yeah. And it really was a testament to like, I never thought a guy like that could like be the guy in a company, but he went on and did it in Impact. He was Impact champion for a while. Yeah. And if you go on Enzo's Instagram, he says he's still the champion. So, he never lost it. So, it's like Curtis Axel with the Royal Rumble, right? Like he's never been eliminated. But yeah, so good match overall. Probably the right move. Carmelo Hayes is definitely the future. I don't know if they're going to let him like carry both belts for a little bit for like bragging rights, at least for like a week or something. But obviously we knew, I don't know if the rules stated that like if Strong won, like the North American title goes away. I don't think they planned it that way because then it'd be way too obvious who's going to win. But Roderick Strong is a great final champion, I will say. Better than the last former champion we have. No offense to Hornswoggle, but it's definitely a little bit better to do it this way. A great match, and the Cruiserweight title just wasn't once it moved to NXT, I was a little concerned with its future. And now my question is, and we talked about it last week, what do you do with 205 Live?
Yeah. I mean, you could just use that as I would say just use that as a developmental, like we said before. Have it on another night and just have it not a show, actually, just like you have fans there, so so these guys could get the reaction that they want and learn that way, and just use that as another NXT.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it last week. It'll basically be like AEW Dark. I don't know if you need to call it like NXT 2.5 or something, or like 0.5. I don't know what they want to do. It'll probably be NXT something, right? Like that would be the smart way to do it. Walter is apparently having his last match in NXT UK this week to then move full time to 2.0, which if I'm an NXT UK supporter, I'd be getting a little concerned about the future of that brand as well. So that's a shame too. But well, also
there's also a lot of guys out there in NXT UK that they could bring here.
It's true. I mean, Rich Holland already came. Like it might eventually come that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with it, bro.
Yeah,
because to be honest with you, I don't watch NXT.
No, but I like a lot of the guys on there too. That's the thing.
Same here. I watch the highlights and stuff, so it was like,
if they could get guys like Wolfgang and Joseph Connors and some of those other dudes, and that I've seen in other, like they were in like WCPW together and stuff, and then like they come
dragging off and all.
Yeah. So if they eventually just like, again, they're clearly retracting. So like keep the best of the best. I mean, you clearly have no issue releasing people, so keep the best of the best. And shout out. We'll talk about. This is NXT news, so we'll count it in there. Breaking news probably from Fightful, but we got it from Jake. So shout out to Jake for breaking the news for us. Samoa Joe has been released, which not a huge shock. And the one that pissed me off the most is no more William Regal. And I think it's safe to say William Regal is the greatest on-air authority figure in the history of WWE for his role he had the funny version in WWF as like the commissioner. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in his 5 to 7 year run here as NXT GM, just what he did for the brand. And we've seen so many people, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Gargano, all these people have been, tweeting their support, and like Triple H. And it's crazy to think that almost everyone released in this new wave, Road Dogg and all these other people were all Triple H hires. Like they're like zoning in on these Triple H hires. So I'm really, starting to wonder what his position in the company even is anymore.
Facts. I'm scared about it, bro.
I am tired of talking about releases, but I had to, throw those in there. I'll get back on track with the show. We did have the main event and what we probably expected to happen. Good match, really, which I didn't expect Ciampa and Braun Breaker to have like the chemistry that they did. The match, like I didn't think their styles were going to clash into equaling a good match. I was pretty surprised with what we did get to see. And then we have, if you didn't know for sure that the old NXT was dead, they hit you over the head with it when they had Braun Breaker break a like styrofoam looking old NXT logo. So if you didn't know before, you know now that no more NXT Black and Gold, but we do have Braun Breaker as the new NXT champion moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not upset about that though. Yeah. I think he's gonna be a really good champion. There's gonna be a lot of different challengers for him, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think the next person, actually, you know what? I wanted to say something. So when I was watching, I was like, oh, they're gonna cue Samoa Joe's music.
Mm-hmm.
And Samoa Joe's gonna come out and be like, you remember me? I'm the guy that didn't lose the title. I had to relinquish the title because I was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping that it was gonna be like Samoa Joe versus Braun Breaker, and then Samoa Joe put Braun Breaker over.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but
they probably could have did that before they released him too. Like, there's no reason to not do that.
Because apparently he was at like the tryouts that was happening last week.
Oh, okay, getting back in shape or whatever. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm not convinced that the injury that he had. I think that was just them, like, to quote Jim Cornette, I think that was just lazy booking they were getting at with that. But I mean, we'll never know. I'm interested to see what Joe does next, obviously. But you're right. As far as the champions of NXT, the tag champions, Carmelo Hayes is North American champion. The NXT champion being Braun Breaker. Like, they are clearly molded this in the image they wanted finally, and now we really got to see where it goes from here. Like, I'm curious who, like, do you throw, like, part of me thinks his first challenge is going to be like Eli Drake, because he's another, like, he was on the 2.0 side, but he's like the oldest guy that counted as a 2.0 guy, I guess, and like they got no problem having him put Breaker over. So that would not surprise me if.
But you also got to remember, he did that the first night. I mean, you could do a callback to that, because
exactly.
First night of 2.0, he won against LA.
And then, how are you feeling? I'm kind of doing this out of order, but before we jump out of NXT here, how'd you feel about the Waller Styles thing?
I'm okay with it. I liked it. I think Grayson Waller held his own. I'm excited for the match next week. I think that's going to be a banger. Of course, AJ Styles is going to put Waller over more than likely. But I like the fact that they're bringing these some stars that are not really doing much on the main roster to NXT. Like, I'm not mad about that.
I agree with that part of it, but it's like, you're going to bring AJ to NXT. You could imagine if they did it like a year ago, and all the AJ and Cole, AJ and O'Reilly, any of the Undisputed Era, AJ and Joe, which we haven't had in like 20 years, right? Like, you bring him in for, like, I like Grayson Waller more than most people, but like, I've also heard that basically this whole feud was designed for Austin Theory, but then Vince saw Austin Theory and brought him up, and they're like, well, we already wrote all this. Who can we plug into this? So apparently that's the case, because it would have made sense all the way back to the beginning. Theory has been Gargano's lackey, so if he came out and jumped him on his last night, it would have been like a crazy heel turn. So like, even going back to the genesis of this, it would not shock me if all this was written for Austin Theory, and then gone in with Grayson Waller. So, but I agree, the match itself is going to be interesting. AJ, I think, is just, I don't know how much longer his contract is, but he's just kind of doing whatever they feel like having him do. And I don't think he minds working with a young guy like this. I don't think that part bothers him, but
yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to him going to NXT, just working on NXT for a while, and then going go to SmackDown. Like, the matches he could get still. You could get Pete Dunne versus AJ. You could get Carmelo Hayes versus AJ.
Ciampa
versus AJ. Like
there's still plenty of stuff. And once you get crushed by Omos like you did, like, you guys stay out of that eye for a little bit. Anyway,
I agree with you. And I think this also could also boost the ratings up for some for NXT as well.
That's true. So that, good pay-per-view for them. Extreme Live event. I considered it a pay-per-view anyway, but it was on Tuesday. So, but because here's another thing: are they even going to do takeovers for a developmental brand anymore?
I don't know,
because the whole process of a takeover is it used to take over the network. That was like where the name came from, right? So I don't even know. And the other thing is, like, war games. You can't do war games with developmental guys anymore. I think we've seen our last war games. because like it made sense for the war that they had to have between the old and the new, but like you can't have 8 developmental guys in 2 rings in a big cage. Like that's just screaming for someone to die.
Yeah,
you know, like
but
I don't.
that's also in November, so it's like you can a lot of these guys that are getting a lot of this time from the start, like Grayson Waller, Carmelo Hayes, Odyssey Jones, Andre Trace, Tony D'Angelo, and Braun Breaker. I think by then they'll be more seasoned, and they won't be as green as they were last time.
Yeah. I'm not worried about them, but like you need a whole another crop of people to face those kind of guys, you know?
Yeah. I understand what you mean.
Like you could do like the Diamond Mine against a group of people. That might be the last one you can do in a year from now if those guys are still there. But yeah, I'm just with some of these gimmick shows that NXT, you know, admittedly has had pretty entertaining shows trying to do. They don't really fit a developmental version of that, you know? Like you'd never have like AEW Dark just had a no DQ match between Janela and Sonny Kiss, but you're never going to have like a cage match on Dark. Like that wouldn't make sense, I don't think. But I'm interested to see where they go with all that. Jumping now to AEW, the debut on TBS. This was a pretty fun show. We, of course, started with the AEW title match. You got to start out with a banger. We had the judges just in case this went to a time limit draw. And people spent so much time trying to figure out who the judges were going to be. And they just took like, you know, guys they already had sitting around. The thing that made me laugh is like the reason they're having judges is in case the match goes an hour, right? So you get someone like Jerry Lynn, he knows a thing or two about long matches, but then you get Paul White and Mark Henry, you know, just the antithesis of stamina and long matches, right? Like these guys know how to judge an hour. And I love both those guys, Mark Henry a little bit more so, but like, but yeah, I thought that was like Jerry Lynn made perfect sense. I think, you know, it should have been, and they could have used like Dean Malenko as a coach. He should have been out there. You know, it should have been Dean, Jerry Lynn, and there's probably a third obvious guy that I'm not thinking of. But like,
I would say if Chavo was still there, Chavo could be in.
That's true. That's a good point. One thing I did love about this match is like, anytime they went outside, Daniel Bryan went out of his way to like do moves in front of the judges to be like, see, I'm winning. Do you see this? And like, this is the second time they've gone to a judges thing. They did one really early on with Cody versus Jericho, and both times the judges have not been needed, which means I think eventually you do, if you're going to pull that card out, eventually something has to come to the judges. I don't know what, but like, it's good that it wasn't obvious. Like, oh, every time they bring the judges out, it goes to the judges. But, you know, if you end up doing this again, I think you kind of have to use them eventually.
Yeah, definitely. I think that too. So
what'd you think of the match overall?
Overall, the match, I thought the match was great. I thought this match was better than the first one.
I agree.
Mainly just because we got a decisive winner. Was it a 30-minute match, or was an hour?
It had a 60-minute time limit. It probably went like 40 something.
Well, I saw that it actually went like 29 minutes.
Okay, so maybe I'm thinking with commercials and I'm not factoring that in, but probably went right around 30, I guess, is what would make sense. Because Hangman even said, he's like, if we do this again, I'm finishing this as quick as possible. Like, where Brian's like, I'm gonna drag this out, I'm gonna wear you down, I can wrestle an hour all day, like you barely can. He's like, well, I don't need to. I beat Kenny in 30 minutes, under 30 minutes. I'll beat you in under 30 minutes. Like, so it was a contraction of styles for sure. We didn't need 2 straight hour matches either, though. So like, I'm cool with that.
I also like the fact, like some of the stuff that you see, like the camera shots that they had, like when Hangman went up for that buckshot the first time, and you just see Daniel Bryan just collapse. Before the clothesline got to him. So I thought that was a pretty cool video. Because he was just so weak, because all the blood, you see bloody face and everything. This was definitely not a match to watch if you were had a weak stomach.
I was actually just about to say, imagine people that didn't know the stuff changed channels and they're turning on TBS to watch like Young Sheldon or something, and they see this, right? Like, but I'm glad you brought up that collapse spot, because the first time I ever saw that was Kenny versus Okada, and shout out to Okada, he just won the title again over at Wrestle Kingdom. But he went for the Rainmaker and Kenny like collapsed, and he but he threw himself into the clothesline so much that he just kind of fell over too, because it was in their hour draw. And when Kenny collapsed from the duck, I remember like visually like gasping. I was like, like I'd never seen that sort of psychology in an American match. You know, that's definitely something that you get over there. And that I thought that was almost something they could have done in the first match. Like imagine he goes for the buckshot and he misses, and then he just like flops on the ground, and then like the bell rings. Like that would have been a cool one too. Cool. But at least they got it in there, because that is a spot that, when done well, is, you know, really, really good psychology for sure. We did get our new TBS champion. I've liked what they've done with this tournament. They didn't do like the Queen of the Ring, for example, where you just like, let's get all these matches in under like 2 minutes. Like they stretched this out over like 3 months, I think 2-3 months. Normally I would say it was predictable that Jade was going to win, but like Ruby is still like the new girl on the block. So like, oh, maybe you're going to give it to her. Like if it was like her and Thunder Rosa in the final, it's like, yeah, Thunder, she's here no matter what. Like I thought there was just enough like indecisiveness on who was going to win that it worked out. But if you're going to have a mid-card champion, someone like Jade, you know, is probably the way to go with this, I think.
See, I wasn't upset about it. I just feel like she's still a little too green.
Very much so.
Yeah. Like I think she still needed some more times. And like I didn't really care who won, you know, just because I love Ruby so and I love Jade Carter. But I just think that she needed more time to actually get some actual exposure.
Probably
because there was a lot of clunkiness in that match. If you look at
really the finish, like whatever her move is from the top rope, she didn't hit in such a way that it looked like she was out. You know, like like when CM Punk used to do the Pepsi plunge, the pedigree from the top rope back in the, like when he hit that good, it was like a work of art. But not everybody knows how to take that. They might like stick their knee in there or kind of like try to curl the side. Like there are times that it looked bad. And I'm not saying Ruby doesn't know how to take that move. I think it's an awkward move to take in avalanche fashion, you know, from the second rope or whatever. Maybe would have changed up how that ended, I guess. Like the pop wasn't as big as it could have been because of the move that caused it wasn't what it should have been, I think. That'd be my biggest criticism.
Like, I don't know if you saw it. Well, if you looked at what Jade was trying to do, she looked like she was trying to go on the third rope.
And Ruby's probably like, no, that's not gonna go.
And so she was like, okay. So she just stayed at the second rope, and then it just looked really clunky. Like if she was more seasoned, she would have hit that. She would hit that easily.
I agree.
It's just it didn't look all that good.
And now, the one positive, and she was there with her daughter, and that was like a cool moment, I think. And like you can tell
I already knew it. That was so telegraphed, bro.
But the daughter, I gotta say, was funny because like she was obviously super happy, but I feel like maybe she hasn't been around. Like she was like nervous, like she was trying to celebrate, but she's like, there are so many freaking people here. Like you can tell it was like this weird combination. But no, it was definitely cool. And like Jade's obviously never lost, and now when she does, it'll be for a title. So whoever beats her, you know. But you got to do this right, though. You got to pay it forward. You can't just have Thunder Rosa beat her in 4 months. Like someone's going to beat her. Now it has to be somebody on the way up also. I'm thinking like a Layla Hirsch, you know, someone that came in shortly after her that they've clearly taken a liking to. And I like her a lot too. That there's a reason she was picked for the NWA, you know, Empower Women's Cup final. You weren't going to waste like, and hey, if that Forbidden Door is still open, I want me some Jade versus Camille. I don't care if it's in NWA. I don't care if it's in AEW, but at some point, man, that's the biggest women's money match outside of like Becky, Charlotte, Sasha, like outside of like the horsewomen, if you will. We need eventually that match to happen, whether it be, and you could do like, you know, maybe when Jade loses that title, they can kind of loan her out and in NWA. I think that would be a great way to, like you said, she needs more exposure, like a little loan, like it's like almost like international soccer, but like a loan out to NWA and facing Camille for a program there, I think would be pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it you would kind of think that would have been the main event, right? Like TBS championship, first night on TBS. Granted, the way that went down, I'm kind of glad it wasn't. because it would have been like a weird way to end the show.
Yeah.
What we did get was pretty crazy. We got the AEW Tag Team Championship match, Lucha Brothers versus the Jurassic Express. A great match, but of course nobody's talking about that. What everybody is talking about is, one, we got new champions, which I was overall happy for, because I think you were at a point, like, they've challenged for the belt so many times that I feel like they only had one or two left in them. Like, you can't, like, the one thing, say what you will, people want Proud and Powerful to be champs. They've really only challenged for them, I think, like once, and it was when the Bucks had them. So like they haven't tried and failed and tried and failed. The Jurassic Express has done this. So they did win the titles, but before that happened, we obviously saw the crazy injury that apparently is nowhere near as bad as we thought it was. I don't know if you've seen the most recent news, but Rey Fenix, what he was trying to do on that, I will never know. Like, you take a flat table back bump, right? For some reason, he tried to stick his arm out to like catch himself, and it looked like his arm snapped in half. It looked like the thing that Alexa Bliss can do, like on cue, but he can't do it on cue, right? Apparently it was not a broken arm, it wasn't a fracture, it was just a dislocated elbow. So like, which is not fun, right? But like, but you pop that back in and you chill for a couple weeks, and it's pretty much okay. Like, I don't know how that it worked out that way, but it did. So like, speedy recovery for him. I was ready to come on here and it's like, well, he's out for 8 months, so what do you do with Penta? Do you make Penta a singles wrestler, which is something I wouldn't mind seeing eventually down the line for sure. But now that we know, similar to the Roman thing, now that it's been enough to, it's only been 24 hours, but now that we know that he's okay, we can talk about the wrestling and not about the health of the wrestler, because it does seem like he's going to be fine. So that's a good thing. But the new champs, I guess, it was a very pleasant surprise, and that was how you pop the TBS audience for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely surprised, and they didn't telegraph it because I guess Jungle Boy's mom or family was in attendance as well.
Yeah.
So I guess that was, they didn't telegraph that because
they didn't show them until they won
at the end.
Like you're saying, because I texted you earlier. I'm like, do you think? I think it was last night actually. Once I finally watched it all, did you think they called an audible? And you're like, possibly, and like, it's obvious to think why you would, but like, and that could explain why they didn't show the mom and the sister until then. But like, looking back, when all the heels came out to like eyeball the new champs, and again, maybe they like are smart enough to like, we're calling this audible and then we're calling this audible in the back so that it looks like we did it on purpose. So I don't know. I mean, if it was an audible, it was like the best done audible I've ever seen, because it didn't look like one overall.
Yeah. I will say I'm tired of fruit roll-ups for both companies.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the roll-up victories. It seems like you get rolled up, that's it for you.
I didn't mind this one. I agree there's too many of them, but I didn't mind this one. And I think we've talked about this before, because as I say this, I feel like I've said it before, but really what helps a roll-up finish is how you sell the roll-up. Like, when guys get rolled up and they just kind of lay there, like, those suck. The one you got to be like kicking your feet and squirming and get the heck off of me. Like, those are the ones that create the pop,
Yeah, I like the ones when the person that's rolling up the person is like really got all his might into it and has like both feet.
And the other dude's like freaking out. Like, they're
yeah.
Like, Penta did it like on the 1 count, he didn't do anything. And the 2 count, he starts to move, and like, he really gets into it at the like, there's that is an art that not everybody understands how it works, but I agree with you 100%. There's too many of it. Obviously in WWE, you got the 24/7 title, which is, you might as well just call it the roll-up championship, which I put a fruit roll-up on it, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't know Reginald isn't the champion there anymore, because like, he was I don't even know who has it now, but it's not Reggie anymore, I guess.
Yeah, it's Dana Brooks.
Dana Brooks, right? I barely watch WWE as it is the main stuff, so like, I'm not gonna keep up with that for sure. One thing I've thought about, I'm a you can see him behind me, I buy replica belts and stuff, and plenty of people do. Next time whenever Raw or the live events come to the Ocean Center, if you bought a replica 24/7 title, I think you're asking for trouble. Like people always joke about like, oh, you brought a belt to an event, like, now you got to defend it. Like, I'm obviously not the real NWA World Champion, but you got a 24/7 title. I think you're asking for it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. I think if you're walking around with that and somebody tries to roll you can't even get mad. Like you have to, you got to kick out. Like you asked for this. I'm surprised. I would love to see R-Truth like a backstage thing. I don't know how I got to where I got on this, but like R-Truth like roll up a fan thinking that he won the title back, and it was just like a fan with a replica, and the dude got away. That would be funny. Thank you guys for following me on that journey because I don't know how we got here, but great first TBS episode for AEW. The ratings are already out, 1.01 million, so they're back over the threshold. And while they've been struggling for that, Don, you'll understand this because you understand TV, you work in TV and stuff. For the past several months, the West Coast audience has been getting it live. So it's on at like 5:30 West Coast time, which means not everybody's home to watch it. With this move back to TBS, they're getting it back on 8 o'clock West Coast. So more people are watching it. I think that is the difference in the 700,000 people. Like, now that it's on at 8 o'clock West Coast time, more people are watching it on TV the traditional way.
Okay.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I guess I get what you mean. Like they're watching it locally at their time at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Whereas the past month or two, it's been on at 5:30 their time. And like not everybody's home, not everybody's picked up the kids yet, not everybody's done whatever. Like, I mean,
traffic chilling.
Yeah. So I always assumed that was the case, and I think the fact that the first week back to that time slot or back up to 1 million means that really probably the same amount of people have been watching this whole time. It just wasn't live. And we've had our talks about the ratings and whatever. So if they can consistently hit 1 million, I think they'll easily be like, obviously TNT had like the NBA, now they have the NHL. There's no reason AEW can't be the best rated show on TBS because it's all like Big Bang Theory reruns. Like that's all they're competing with on their own channel. And it's gonna.
I mean, they're starting the Big Bang, the Big Show.
The Big Show's on there now too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Big Show. Yeah.
They go Big Show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then they also have that Wipeout. Wipeout's gonna be coming back too.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not even done with wrestling for the week. We do have Battle of the Belts on Saturday, which I'm looking forward to for sure. I expected more title matches for a show called Battle of the Belts. I think we got 2. We got the women's title and the TNT title. I think we almost could have. I mean, I like how all this went down. We still got Rampage this week too, but the tag title match might have been saved for Battle of the Belts. I think might have been okay. And put one of those 6-mans in there, like 2.0 is facing Proud and Powerful and Eddie Kingston in like street fight. I think that would have been good for, but I guess you don't want like the Paige Bryan match was bloody, and then this probably gets bloody. You probably didn't want too much blood in the same show or whatever. But yeah, just a lot of good stuff this week, and now the feeling of the show on TBS, like it felt no different. They're just going to keep rolling. It's just a different logo on the bottom of the screen. I think technically more people, TBS is in more homes than TNT, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, it is weird. I heard about that too.
Yeah. And you still have Rampage on TNT, so there's still a presence on TNT, and then of course these Battle of the Belts type shows are going to be on TNT. So like the fact that they're going to have a TNT champion, it won't be weird because like they're still on it once a week, sometimes twice, so it's all going to work out too. So a lot of good wrestling this week, and as we wrap up, I have to squeeze in my NWA news. Have you heard? I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but a lot of people have said, man, I would watch the NWA more. I used to watch it a little bit when it was on YouTube, and then they went behind a paywall. Well, good news for you guys. NWA is returning to YouTube. NWA Power is going to be on Fridays. If you still have the subscription, you get it on Tuesday, but you can watch it for free on Friday. And they're also starting a new show called NWA USA, which is going to air on Saturdays. And they're also bringing back the Junior Heavyweight Championship, which a part of me would say that's way too many belts for this promotion, right? I think we could say that. But what they've basically established is Power was going to have the world champion and the TV champion. And then NWA USA is going to focus on the national champion and the junior heavyweight champion. And then the tag titles can appear on both or whatever. So, they're starting to get out there with, we actually have a show, I think it's this weekend in Jacksonville, where Trevor Murdoch is going to face Gangrel for the title. He's going to main event Duval Brawl, it was called, which I was flirting with the idea about going to it. I don't know that that's going to happen unless something crazy really does happen here. But that's really smart. Like, put your champs on indie shows and let them main event these indie shows and just like document it on social media. It'll make it feel like the territory days, like the world champions in Jacksonville and Chris Masters is defending the title here in the Carolinas. And like, I think it'd be really cool for them. I'm really excited for, you know, they were pretty much dead. They've kind of limped around here trying to see where they're going to be in this wrestling land. When NWA went away, like AEW had like just started, right? Like the landscape was totally different. And I'm interested to see where they find their place. And I think they're in the right direction going on YouTube. They have a $50 a year subscription on Fight Now that if you get that for the year, you get to watch the first run of everything and all the pay-per-views included. So they've kind of created their own little, you know, they usually have 4 to 5 pay-per-views a year, the Crockett Cup and all that sort of thing. So definitely as an NWA fan, yeah, I'm probably still going to do that, honestly. One, I'll get to watch the NWA on Tuesday instead of Friday. The USA show is on Saturday no matter what, but you'll get Power 2 days earlier or whatever it is, 3 days earlier. But yeah, I mean, the pay-per-views on Fight are $20 to $30. So to get all 4 or 5 of them for the $50 price point seems like a no-brainer to me. So yeah. If you were one of those people that were like, yeah, I enjoyed what I saw from Power and then they went off YouTube, guess what? They're coming back. So Friday at, I think, Friday at 6:05 and Saturday at noon. That's your new NWA schedule on YouTube. So nice. All right. So anything before we get out of here?
That's about it, man.
All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the first episode of 2022. A lot of wrestling this week, a lot more to be had. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Peace.